surprised I made it.
My Kendall Lane competition, I call you.
That's just
There you go.
the official.
You don't want my...
This is to connect to that microphone and to these TVs. So it's not a microphone for the room. I'll try and yell at you. Public comment. If you have something that you want to talk about that's not on the agenda, now is the time to do it. Is there anyone who has such a topic? No, you're all here for something that's on the agenda. Okay. If you wish to speak, when you wish to speak, because of the TVs, you need to go to that microphone, and would you please, when you do, say what your name is and what topic you're addressing. So, easy to remember, but you can't speak from your seat. You need to go there. Thank you. So we'll begin. Paul,
Charlotte, can I add one other thing?
Sure.
Is we don't want anything to turn into a debate, so if somebody gets up and says something and you want to counter it, we don't want to get into a debate format here either. It's just for stating your opinion at the mic, and that's that.
That's true, but somehow I assumed you all already knew that. Maybe not.
No.
Okay, call minutes.
Yeah, I recommend approval of the minutes of June 28th, 2020.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Approved.
In addition, we have two other minutes, July 12th, 2022, and July 26th, 2022, as corrected.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the minutes are now part of the record. Okay, we have for tonight on our agenda, it's a kind of long agenda, and we're going to try to get through it so we can all get home at a reasonable hour. First, we have two planning board decisions. These are on matters that we already had. Our public hearing, we had public comment, the board discussed it, we requested a positive decision, and now we have them. And the first one is on the Catawmet Sawmill Realty LLC on a site plan review application to construct an 8-unit contractor bay building at 494 Thomas Landers Road, Catawmet Sawmill. You're probably familiar with it. Bob, could you read that, please?
Okay, draft 8/5/22. Motion that the planning board votes to approve the application of Catawmet Sawmill Realty LLC to build a 50-foot by 198-foot, 9,900 square foot, 8-unit contractor bay building on the southwest portion of the property located at 494 Thomas Landers Road under Article 39 Site Plan Review of the zoning bylaw for a plan entitled Site Plan Proposed Contractor Bay Building, 494 Thomas B. Landers Road, East Falmouth, Massachusetts, scale 1 inch equals 20 feet, dated March 22nd, 2022, with latest revision May 10th, 2022, prepared by Cape and Islands Engineering, as well as a lighting plan entitled 494 Thomas B. Landers Road Site Lighting Photometric Scale 1 inch equals 25 feet, dated July 18th, 2022, prepared by Exposure Lighting, along with an architectural plan entitled Seth Adams 494 Thomas B. Landers Road, East Falmouth, Mass. 02536, scale 1/8 inch equals 1 foot 0 inches, dated March 25th, 2022, prepared by Rescom Architect, Inc., with the following findings. This 7.4 acre parcel is located in the limited Industrial A LIA zoning district, as well as in the Coastal Pond West Falmouth Harbor Overlay District. The property currently contains approximately 8 buildings, all served by gravel driveways. The applicant is proposing to build a 9,900 square foot, 8-unit contractor bay building with a 9,476 square foot paved parking lot to include 22 parking spaces. The applicant intends to use part of the structure for storage of materials and equipment for the sawmill operation, while the remaining area of the structure will be rented out to private contractors. The property has an existing special permit from 1986, which allowed the sawmill operation. Additionally, there are 2 special permit modifications from 1990 and 1993 that allowed additional structures to be built on the property. Therefore, the applicant will need to file with the Zoning Board of Appeals for this proposed 8-unit contractor bay building. The Town of Falmouth departments have reviewed and commented on the above-mentioned site plan, and the planning board finds that this applicant has adequately addressed the comments, and the board will condition its decision accordingly. The planning board's review does not include building code review, and the board defers to the building commissioner as to issues relating to building code and zoning. The board finds that the information provided by the applicant conforms to all the requirements and findings pursuant to Article 39 of the zoning bylaw. Conditions. 1, the plan shall be constructed as approved. Any changes shall be reviewed by the planning board to determine if a modification of this decision is necessary. Pursuant to Section 240-183B of the zoning bylaw, no permit for full or partial occupancy shall be issued until the planning board is satisfied that the conditions of this approval and predecessor approvals have been met. 2, upon completion of the construction, the applicant shall post the address for this residence per Section 99-1, affixing of legible numbers, required time limit for compliance. 3, construction of this project shall follow the town's soil erosion and sediment control standard conditions document. References to the Department of Public Works Engineering Division shall be replaced with the planning board, who is the permitting authority for this project.
Charlotte?
Yes.
I'd like to second it, but first there's a small correction. Instead of limited industrial A, it's light industrial A. That's our zoning.
Can we make that correction?
Yeah.
Okay, so then I've seconded.
It's light industrial.
Mhm.
And you second also?
Yes.
Is there any discussion?
No.
Any needed? All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion is approved.
Yeah, I did catch that. Limited.
Moving on the agenda, we have another prepared draft approval that we requested, and this is for Milton Floors Incorporated, a special permit application to improve existing non-conforming parking spaces located in the front yard on T-Ticket Highway at number 231. Bob, could you continue to read? Is that okay?
Sure, I shouldn't have had that piece of candy before you started reading. Draft 8522. Motion that the planning board vote to approve the application of Milton Floors, Inc. under Article 22 parking requirements and grant a special permit pursuant to Section 240-109E of the zoning bylaw to construct parking in the front yard of the premises and within 5 feet of the front property line located at 231 T-Ticket Highway for a plan entitled Proposed Site Plan at 231 T-Ticket Highway, Route 28, T-Ticket, Falmouth, Mass. Scale 1 inch equals 20 feet, dated December 21st, 2021, with latest revision of April 26, 2022, prepared by BSS Design, Engineering, and Surveying with the following findings. The 0.46 acre lot currently contains 2 structures, a 4,938 square foot commercial building at the front of the site and a 1,874 square foot office and residential building at the rear of the site. The applicant is proposing to construct 4 parking spaces located in the front yard and within 5 feet of the front property line. The 4 spaces located at the front of the commercial building are sited perpendicular to the structure and therefore consistent with Section 240-109C of the zoning bylaw, not involving vehicles backing onto a public way. The applicant is also proposing to extend the existing landscape island where the business sign is currently located to the front of the building to prevent vehicles from driving through that area. A special permit granting authority shall grant a special permit only upon its written determination that the proposed use will not have adverse effects which overbalance its beneficial effects on either the neighborhood or the town, in view of the particular characteristics of the site. Pursuant to Section 240-216 of the zoning bylaw, the determination shall indicate and include consideration of each of the following. Findings. A, adequacy of the site in terms of size for the proposed use. The planning board finds the size of the site to be adequate. The applicant is not proposing any changes that would make this pre-existing non-conforming property any more non-conforming. B, the suitability of the site for the proposed use. The planning board finds the site suitable for the proposed use. The property is located in the Business 2B2 district, which allows for retail sales, and the surrounding land uses are commercial businesses. C, impact on traffic flow and safety. The planning board finds the impact on traffic flow and safety to be acceptable. The proposed parking plan shows an improvement to the parking area in the front of the building and access to the rear of the site. D, impact on neighborhood visual characteristic, including views and vistas. The planning board finds no impact on neighborhood visual character, including views and vistas. The parking improvements proposed on the property include some minor landscaping islands, which reduce the impervious cover and add welcome vegetation to the site. E, adequacy of method of sewage disposal, source of water and drainage. The planning board finds the method of sewage disposal, source of water and drainage to be acceptable. The applicant has received approvals from the necessary town departments and our boards for all these elements. F, adequacy of the utilities and other public services. The planning board finds the site to have adequate utilities and public service. The property is served by municipal electric, telephone, cable, and internet infrastructure. G, the effect of the proposed project on the adequacy of the supply of affordable housing in the town. The planning board finds no effect on the supply of affordable housing in town. Conditions. 1, the plan shall be constructed as approved. Any changes shall be reviewed by the planning board to determine if a modification of this decision is necessary pursuant to Section 240-183B, the zoning bylaw. No permit for full or partial occupancy shall be issued until the planning board is satisfied that the conditions of this approval and predecessor approvals have been met. 2, pursuant to Section 240-221 of the zoning bylaw, the special permit shall lapse 3 years from the date it is granted if a substantial use thereof has not sooner commenced except for a good cause.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on this? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
That takes care of the no approvals needed. We've endorsed these, they're approved, and now we can move on to public hearings. These are things where there hasn't been a determination, they're still open for discussion. And the first of these is a Netto Politi continuance, special permit for parking, and it's limited to, I'd like you to listen carefully on what it is we're hearing.
Madam Chairman, I'm recusing myself.
Oh, yes, Jim, thank you. Jim was involved in this in a prior iteration. What we're hearing is a special permit for parking within 5 feet of the front property line located at 797 Main Street. So the planning board's involvement is limited to that issue. And we have heard quite a bit on this. And the town planner, Jed Cornock, is now going to speak on it first.
So, thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, Jed Cornock, Town Planner. You haven't seen this application or this applicant for quite a while. The last time this applicant was before you was on June 28th, your last meeting in June. And at that time, there were several concerns raised with the proposed parking on the site. They had since revised the plan and resubmitted on July 13th, which is shown here. There have been some correspondence between the planning office and the applicant as of today. So the applicant may speak to that this evening, but this is the official plan that's been filed and is included in your packet, July 13th. I'll let the applicant speak to potentially any modifications that may have come as a result of the latest engineering review, which I believe just came in the other day. That
Which they have seen.
which they have seen. With that, I will pass the baton to the applicant.
Who is speaking for the applicant? I think he stepped out of the room. Mike?
Madam Chairman, for the record, Mike Porcelli, Falmouth Engineering, and I represent the applicant along with Rob Mills, attorney for the applicant. And I have a plan that's slightly different than this that we revised in response to comments we received from the town engineer yesterday. They're minor, and I don't think they'll confuse the issues. In fact, they're positive suggestions that we incorporated in the plan.
Could you please describe those changes?
Slight modification to parking spaces number 1 and 2.
Mike, for the record, the second tab is the revised plan that you provided to us.
Oh,
Yep, right up at the top.
oh, perfect. Well,
You go.
I will. These 2 spaces have been modified in response to concerns by the town engineer we received just yesterday. I guess this
It's the second tab.
oh, this one.
That's the one.
You have to really look to see the difference, but we made modifications to this layout to demonstrate that a car or a space measuring 9 foot wide, which is shown here, by 18 feet long, can fit in these spaces and not project out beyond the end of the spaces or be in what's commonly referred to as the aisle.
So you changed the angle so they could tuck in more tightly.
We just kind of slid them in a little bit closer to the center of the building.
Yeah.
It was a couple feet to satisfy that concern. We also made it very clear that these spaces, 16, 17, and 18, all measure 9 foot wide by 18 feet in length, which is the requirement under your parking space dimensions. There was a comment about the ADA accessible parking spaces needing to be a van, designated one. There's a total of 2 required, and we've shown them. We had to widen this space between the two ADA spaces from what it was, which was 6.5 feet to 8 feet. I think that's pretty much the changes we made.
And that's what the town engineering department suggested, and you took their suggestion.
Yes, there's one thing we didn't do that came up at after a conversation I had with Jed this afternoon about this off-street loading area. It doesn't show on here, but it measures 9 foot wide by 35 feet long, for your information. The revisions that are on this plan that were previous to those comments, which I don't know that you've seen, but they were submitted, those are the July 13th revisions, included changing the configuration of the parking spaces along this westerly property line from angled spaces to parallel spaces. What that did was eliminated any need for relief from the minimum setback of 5 feet from a property line. It provided for a green area that could be landscaped along the property line, as shown. And the other main revision that was made on the 13th came as a result of us meeting with the abutter. I had several conversations with the abutter who's here tonight, trying to do everything we could to address his concerns. The main concern, I believe, not speaking for them, was that this plan now has no parking space within the easement that they have rights to, as we understand the easement to be. So every parking space is not outside of the easement area, as we understand the easement to be from the recorded easement plan that we reviewed.
And you've been working with the abutter. Thank you.
We did our best to work with the abutter.
Right, this is good. First, we're going to have any comments from the board, and then the public can comment also. So, hold on, if you've come to do that, your turn is coming. Board members, any questions or comments?
No, I think it looks very nice.
Yeah, I read Mr. Kirk's letter, and he questions the use that, this is actually a restaurant now. It isn't just a retail establishment where Cumberland Farms was more of a stop in, grab something and go, where this now has tables. And I kind of feel that the owner didn't do due diligence purchasing this property, because I really don't think this is a place for a sit-down restaurant. I agree with people's complaints about the traffic going in and out of there. And I really think we need to look at his comments about the bylaw for fast food restaurant and business zone. I want to check that. Maybe Jed can straighten me out on that if he's correct in this.
Well, let's
And-
ask Jed a question. Jed, the planning board doesn't deal with uses, right?
Correct.
Uses are not our purview. That goes to the ZBA. So what we're looking at is the parking situation.
Right, I know, but,
No, I hear what you're saying.
yeah.
I'm just trying to,
Is this going to go to the
Stay on
ZBA
our own.
after us?
That is not my understanding.
Okay, see, that's,
But the building commissioner has already issued the building permit. In fact, two building commissioners, individual building commissioners. One issued a certificate of occupancy permit, and the other issued the building permit, both indicating no change in use.
I think we all have to try to speak up, so.
I apologize. Would you like me to repeat that? Two individual building commissioners have ruled on this particular project or this application. The first signed off on the certificate of occupancy, indicating no change of use, and the second signed off on the building permit, also indicating no change in use. So our building department has indicated or ruled on the use question, and now before the planning board is this application for parking in the front yard.
Are we in a position to overrule the building commissioner?
Not that I'm aware of.
Nor am I. Other comments, Pat?
I don't have any. I think they've complied with our requests.
Paul,
No, I think they've addressed the comments that we raised.
Pam?
I agree with Pat. I think they've done what we'd asked them to do.
Then I will say what I think. I agree with all of you, but this ship has sailed. They're there, they're operating. They bought it in good faith, I would assume. The building commissioner led them to believe that they could operate as they're operating. And I think if we focus on what we genuinely have authority to focus on and don't stray outside of that, the planning board will be on its own territory, is what I think. So
I
now,
kind of feel we're being used.
I think that there's a hoodwink involved here somewhere.
Yeah.
So let's hear from the public. Thank you, Mike.
Evening, Madam Chairman, members of the board. My name is Edward Kirk, and I'm representing Ellie Jamal, who's the principal of the entity that owns all the abutting property, Falmouth 815 Main Street, LLC. I appreciate the fact that Mr. Leary has mentioned my letter because I understand perfectly well that the planning board does not have the authority to make straight zoning decisions. But you certainly have to take into consideration when you're going to be granting a special permit, whether or not the underlying use upon which that request is based is a lawful use. And in this particular case, the applicant went to the building commissioner, apparently on 2 separate occasions, and made representations about what was going to take place on this site. No change of use, just interior remodeling and repair, and emphasizing retail sales. Since that time, it's become apparent that it's not quite that simple, that it's basically a food service takeout business primarily. And this plan, which has been brought before you, basically establishes that conclusively. They're looking for 9 seats in order to comply with the requirements to operate a restaurant. And I think we're on solid ground saying that this business is consistent with a fast food restaurant, an establishment for the immediate sale of food or drink prepared on or off the premises, served in disposable containers or wrappers for consumption on or off the premises, unless such sales are wholly incidental to a conventional restaurant, which would not be allowed, or such other uses as a grocery or convenience store. So the history here, the last prior use that took place here, it was a Cumberland Farms, and they obtained a special permit from the zoning board, and that was in 1994, and they were allowed to convert service repair bays, take those bays out, and install a convenience store. And that was what Cumberland Farms was operating. And the board was very specific that traffic would not increase any more than 2.5% over what was there, that the pass-by traffic, which already exists, will be there for gasoline service and the convenience store. The lot can accommodate the required 9 parking spaces, and traffic flow will be orderly. The board made it a point to say that the use does not allow any satellite operations of any kind, such as Dunkin' Donuts or Subway sandwiches. The purpose of that statement is to make sure we don't have an operation where there's traffic coming in because people are there to buy food, make a purchase, and go. So there was that limitation. So I think the representation was not 100% accurate. I don't think the fact that the building commissioner has issued a certificate of occupancy is conclusive here. It's apparent they didn't have all the facts when those decisions were made, but the facts are there now. We know that it's a restaurant, and a restaurant is not allowed in a BR district without, at the very least, zoning board of appeals permission. So I don't think it's a wise decision. I don't know about authority just yet, but for this board to basically endorse this operation through your decision by allowing a special permit to jam more parking onto this parcel of land where the use, at the very least, is seriously open to question, and I think on its face is not lawful. I think that's a significant basis for you to decline to issue this special permit. Doesn't mean he can't come back, but the building commissioner should weigh in on this, I think, before you go ahead and make what I think would be somewhat of a radical decision in view of the facts. You'd be basically endorsing this restaurant, even though you want to keep it on a very narrow focus, about 5 parking spaces. For the sake of the town of Falmouth and Main Street and traffic, it's a lot bigger than that, because it's this use that is the problem. I also want to point out that on the plan, where my client has an easement over here on the, I guess that's on the west side, the recorded easement is 25 feet, and they're showing it as 23, because they want to sneak another parking space in along the side. So they're using our easement property to be able to show one more space. We haven't had the benefit of looking at the revisions of the plan. I did make inquiry the other day. If there was any new information, apparently it hadn't arrived at the time I made that request. But I would ask the board to take into serious consideration and not sort of have blinders on this issue of whether this use is legal and whether you can grant a special permit for a use which is not legal.
I think we understand your point.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank you for sending it to us in writing so that we had time to read it and absorb it before we had to come here tonight. Thank you for
Sure.
that.
And thank you for your time.
Anyone else who wishes to speak?
Yes, Madam Chair, if I would.
Come forward,
I
please.
appreciate the comments, I think, from one of the board members that you weren't looking for any back and forth banter, and I don't intend to do that, but I did want, Robert Mills, by the way, I'm the attorney for 797 Main Street. With me here this evening is the proprietors of the business, Ned Politi, his wife Kathy Politi, and their son Ned that works in the business. I appreciate Attorney Kirk's comments regarding the definition of restaurant and fast food, because I intended to speak briefly about it this evening as well. And what it does make clear is though, even though he has sandwiches that are in wrappers or containers to go, that's an exception to a restaurant or fast food definition, provided it's incidental to the primary use, which is retail grocery store. That's the primary use there. That's the use that they had at their prior location that formed the basis of the temporary building commissioner, Rod Palmer, who I met with before they purchased the property, and he asked us what we were doing. We said we're going to do the same thing, excuse me, that we did at the other location around the corner. The other location did have 2 tables. And we're doing the same thing here. There's 2 tables for ancillary use. Really, nobody really sits down there and dines. They may sit down if they're waiting for something. A lot of elder customers go in there and they use it for occasional seating, but it's not a restaurant. It's not dine-in seating, and to the extent that they offer products that, by the definition, are in containers or wrappers, there's an exception in your definition that says if it's not a restaurant or fast food, if it's ancillary to the primary use. I wanted to make that point. The other brief point I wanted to make is that this board does not have authority to question or even discuss, really, the current use that's already in effect. And I think, Madam Chairman, you already kind of indicated that, but I just wanted to reconfirm that there's nothing in your decision-making criteria that allows you to question the use at this point in time. So I wanted to, and that's under Section 240, Section 12, 1E of your bylaws. With respect, one final brief comment with respect to the reference to a, let me see it here, 25-foot opening. Actually, I don't see the 25-foot opening that Attorney Kirk was talking about in the southwest corner of the property. But on the easement plan, there is a reference to 25 feet from the southwesternmost point of the property up to the first parking space. I think it's parking space 21. That 25 feet was a dimension that was based upon a concept plan. It was a plan that was before the Board of Appeals and the Planning Board at that time that proposed certain parking, and that 25-foot distance was from the lot line, from the property line to that point. That concept plan is gone. So if the concept plan is gone, so isn't the 25 feet, because that dimension to that parking space no longer exists. Our parking spaces are not in the same spot that the concept plan had their parking spaces. So that was a proposal, and they based their easement plan on a proposed plan that never got approval. So there's a lot of the problems we're having this evening is you have an easement that's not drawn to scale.
I think the problems we're looking at this evening are the ones that the engineering department raised, that Mr. Kirk addressed, and that the town planner addressed.
Thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak on this matter? No. We weren't really planning to do any back and forth. Mr. Kirk, do you have a new point?
I know. I heard you say that, and I just want to say that this is a plan that was recorded at the Land Court, the Registry of Deeds. It also served as potentially the basis of a special permit to the zoning board. But this plan is a plan of record at the registry and shows the opening 25 feet.
Thank you. Jed, do you wish to comment now? Oh, Paul, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I just have a comment. This was filed about 4 months ago, and we've seen this issue many times. And if I remember correctly, we've asked the two parties to work this out and come back before us with a solution. What happened to that?
This is it.
I think you're seeing it tonight. I will just,
But we're talking about uses, future, past uses and things. We're here to talk about parking. And that's, the issue was, can you work this out together and come back to this board to resolve this thing? I think that's a reasonable
Could we frame the
assumption.
underlying issue a little more broadly than that without changing it? We're really here because there are two commercial establishments in town that are neighbors. And as the planning board, we would like to see both commercial establishments succeed. There they are. How can we make this work? And it seems that we have the opinion now of the engineering department, of the town planner, our own sense of it. I think most of us have been to this store. We know what they're doing because we've used it, so it's not a mystery to us. But I do think we ought to be thinking about what's best for both owners and for the town, in addition to the narrowness of getting it down to a few inches one way or another. Just to give us some context here. So I appreciate what you're saying, Paul. Jed, was there something else you wanted to add?
I just wanted to add, as a reminder, that, as you know, this is a public hearing, so whenever you feel comfortable before we take any action, there needs to be a close of that hearing. And I just want to, reemphasize the fact that the plan that, was referenced tonight is essentially a draft plan. It hasn't been certified as of yet, and this is the first opportunity that the public has been given to really look at it and review it. So I just wanted to remind you of those two facts.
Correct, and I see that the engineering department has told the planning board they still have some things they want to have cleared up. They want to see the drawings to reflect what's been said and what's been planned to accommodate the town rules, so we know that we're not making a decision right now. We already know that. So is there someone else who wishes to speak?
Thank you. Very nice, very quiet.
Jamal, the owner of 815 Main Street. Mr. Chairman, you suggested that we should get together, and the applicant said he will call me and get together. He said it right here in an open floor. He never called me. I do work with Michael from Falmouth Engineering. He does work for me. So I called Michael, and I met with Michael. And what I said to Michael, at best, the two angle parking spaces on Cycle Ave side, I don't know where they went, they only have 16-foot clearance to pull out on a two-way street, which is supposed to be 24 feet. The second thing I told Michael is that the parking in the front, the applicant, first time, like, when he came here, he said, I have elderly clients and they like to park in the front. He said that to you. And what I said to Michael, I'll be okay with handicap parking in the front. He told me his client doesn't want to spend the money to provide ADA sidewalks. Currently, there's no sidewalks. Even the sidewalk that exists today, they don't meet ADA. The 3 feet is supposed to be 5 feet. So I'm okay, and the reason I'm okay with the ADA parking in the front, because it's so close to the curb cut, and we have so many very close, almost crashes, people in and out. Whereas in ADA, there'll be less traffic parking in these parking spaces. And he said no, because his client doesn't want to spend the money. I never got a single phone call. I'll be looked at as a bad guy, but I'm the one who actually went to the gentleman when he first bought the property, introduced myself again and again, and he never once called me. So I'm okay with any business, and I have other businesses that I own in the town, and we like business to do well. But we also have laws that we have to all abide by. You know, no one is above the law. And to have 16 feet clearance, and that's property line to the end of the back of the car on Cycle Ave, these two parking spaces. I know how to do this, but that's if cars park on Cycle Ave.
Could you stay by the mic?
Sure.
I'm sorry.
They're 2 feet away
Thank you.
sometimes to park, so you really have 14 feet to back up. There is no doubt it's gonna be accidents. These parking spaces just doesn't make sense. We have so many very close, I was there the other day, and 3 people had to back up right to Main Street because of that. So ADA parking in the front, I'm not opposed to. The two parking, you know, looking at the property on the right side. I mean, we did ADA everywhere we develop property. The sidewalks. And we're not gonna talk about the building commissioner, but it's supposed to be no cooking on the premises. That's what he told me. But I'm not gonna go there, just for the record though.
Right, and you probably saw the engineering department's comments.
I didn't see them, sorry.
Ah,
I didn't even know they exist until tonight when somebody said something.
We've
Okay.
been routinely sending them to the attorneys and the applicant, but we can forward
I
a
didn't get
copy
them.
over to you.
I did not receive anything from you or anybody else. Well, I'm not sure if Ed did, but I know I did not.
We can forward a copy.
And you're yelling and screaming, you know, elderly people like to have parking in front, two handicap. It's $4,000 or $5,000 for sidewalks, not a big deal. And they'll eliminate a lot of traffic from big trucks and landscape trucks parking in the front, and half of the truck is in the driveway. And if you restrict it just for parking, that's all I have to say.
Thank
Because you
you.
said only parking, that is your position. Okay. Just want you to know.
Now we know. And thank you for sending the pictures. I'm sorry that this has caused so much turmoil, really,
I am too.
right, and that it gets resolved appropriately. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Yes.
My name's Kathy Pleady from Slice of Italy. I just would like to say one thing, though. We're just trying to go legally with the parking in the front. I understand some of the stuff that he's saying, and we don't agree on, but we've tried to work with him, even through Mike. And my question right now is, he's trying to say all these cars are going in and out. Well, it's the boat people that are over there into the bait shop too. It's just not us.
I
So
understand
my
that.
question is, we just want to get the parking in the front.
Yes, and we're trying to keep it to the issue that's in front of us, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
But I mean, he's even said, can you two work together? We've tried to work together. And he has tow trucks out there trying to tow my customers. So how do you work with somebody you
It's
can't?
not a question that I can answer.
But
I
I'm just making a
appreciate-
point that he's saying
I
that,
understand the issue, and the last time you were here, we asked you to do that, but we're going to try to stick to what we actually have some authority to decide and not move over into something else. I do know that in the letters that were sent to us, there was quite an issue about people parking wherever because there's no striping for the parking, so people could understand where they're supposed to park. And of course, there's been no striping because there's been no decision. So why would you put down paint when you might have to, sandblast it off? I'm not even sure how that would take place. So the sooner a decision is made, the sooner we can have striping that will at least direct people to appropriate parking. The board, chances are, is going to be really closely directed by the engineering department. People who've been over there, who've measured, this is their business, that's what they do, and they have advised us, and we probably are going to take that advice. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Okay, then I think I'm going to close the hearing.
Can we close it at this point, or are we waiting for more information, Jed?
I think that you'd want to wait for more information to see that final plan that's got survey
Oh, I
stamps.
thought they were
in it.
just going to bring it into alignment with what the engineering department said. No more thinking, just doing as they're told.
I think it's up to the board, but traditionally, my understanding of closing a hearing is indicating that there's no more public comment, no more discussion, no more testimony to be taken, and then you can make a decision based on your opinion.
What's the board like to do?
So a motion to
Yeah,
continue.
motion to continue would be in order.
All right, a motion to continue. I would just as soon cut it off now. A motion to continue, is that what you
Until
made?
the 23rd.
Is there a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right,
What's the deadline on this hearing?
the deadline on this one is,
Well, the special permit hearing stays open until you've decided on it.
Okay.
oh, forever.
Well,
Hopefully not.
we're hoping not that long.
We'll all work on that. Okay, so we've continued, and I can see many of you are here for this issue. Thank you for your concern. We're all concerned, and I hope both businesses prosper.
So for clarity's sake, you'll be entertaining this
Until the 23rd,
on the 23rd, they'll be back.
right, which is our next meeting.
Okay.
Okay. Moving on. The next thing on our agenda is the Town of Falmouth Recreation Department. This issue is, shall we give people time to go home?
Madam Chair, it's actually the fire station is next. 878 Sandwich.
Yeah, fire station.
You're right. Adjusting my glasses here. Thank you.
I find I have the same problem.
I figure out how to see something for us.
Cataract surgery.
Yeah, not for this one.
Okay, is that everyone who's going to go? And Jim's back. Let's come back in order here. Next on our agenda, we have Bowler and Engineering on behalf of the Town of Falmouth, site plan review application to construct a new fire station on the Sandwich Road. And they, Bowler, are you speaking for Bowler?
I'm speaking for the rest department?
Oh, that's over.
No, rec department. Rest department. Rec department, not
Oh,
restaurant.
sorry, I thought you said rest
department.
department. All right. We're almost there. We'll be there in a minute. And the fire department is requesting a continuance for the second hearing until, to be continued until Tuesday, September 13th. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So there's no problem with that?
No issue there at all.
No. So they're continued until into September. Now, you can come back. The Town of Falmouth Recreation Department, a site plan review to modify a previous decision to eliminate the condition that Sunday activities shall not commence before 2 o'clock on either field located at 888 Sandwich Road. And it happens that I am a member of the congregation that is the neighbor to that, so I'm going to recuse myself, and our vice chair is going to deal with this.
Surprise. Okay, so speaking for this.
Madam Chair.
May I have
Madam
your-
Vice Chair, members of the board, thank you for having us in tonight.
May I have your name, please?
My name is Joe Olenek, I'm the Recreation Director.
Madam Chair, may I interject? Sorry, I apologize.
That's all right.
I do believe we have another member.
Yes.
So I need to say temporarily goodbye.
Is this a special permit?
Site plan review.
Site plan review.
That would have been a problem.
It's a modification.
Apologies.
No worries. Sorry, I'm making it complicated on you guys.
Give me 1 second.
Sure, no worries.
Jim,
Would you like some?
what is it?
I don't know, they were given to me, but you can have some.
I almost forgot I was a member.
Okay, Mr. O'Leary.
Anybody else? Yeah, we are here to request that the board modify the condition at the Sandwich Road Fields from 12 o'clock on Sundays to 9 a.m. We've run into some difficulties with usage of fields, and if we were able to use that field at 9 a.m. on Sunday mornings, it would greatly help our use of children's games and sports, and also help local road races that are in town that are using the Heights Field for all their races, and constantly asking the kids that play flag football to move a field for a day and then back, and then move them again. So Sandwich Road Field would work well for flag football, as that's where they have their shed, where Pop Warner tackle football used to play. There's no longer a tackle program in town, and youth flag plays on Sunday mornings at the Heights, and Sandwich Road Field would be a very important place for them to play. They wouldn't have to move, they wouldn't be forced to move on different days, as there's many activities at the Heights Field, and we'd prefer if they could just play at Sandwich Road permanently and not have to move.
Okay, thank you. Actually, Paul has some notices also.
Yes.
Publishing date for this particular project was July 22nd, 2022.
Yes.
And 42 abutters were notified by regular mail. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. That's your presentation.
That's
correct?
what we have, yeah, we have, I have received a letter from the Unitarian Church I can pass out to you guys if you'd like to see it, supporting our request to change the time to 9 a.m. I have spoken or emailed with the Jewish congregation. They were going to be here, I'm not sure if they are or not. Okay, so we have let everybody know what our request would be, and we're more than happy to hear what they would like to say about the request. But the Unitarian Church was in approval. I can pass this letter out, I do not believe I sent that to you. Maybe I did, but there's a letter from the Unitarian Church in agreement to what our request to change the time.
Are there any comments from the board members? Jim?
I've, going through the program with the rec for many years, I coached 3, 4, 5 teams. For years, the town is challenged for space. This was created for it, and it's a great resource, especially because they're trying to coordinate, if I remember correctly, that they also have a great field in Falmouth Heights, but that's impacted by road races and other things, and so this gives them the flexibility to move things around. And I think if we tie them too much up, but you can't start here. I used to coach at Falmouth Heights on Sunday mornings, and the things going on with the kids, it's just great for a neighborhood. Maybe not everyone doesn't like it, but when you're raising your kids and the soccer field's down the street, and it's just a great time. And I think the rec department works real hard. And I think the issue Joe's mentioned is they're trying to balance the impact of the Heights field
and moving it for road races and other things, and it would just stabilize the whole thing, and I really am in favor of.
I mean, the road races are great in town, and they're very popular. The Heights is a great place to end. But, unfortunately, it's been forcing, flag football to keep moving different weeks so the races could have their time. This would get flag football in a spot every Sunday. They wouldn't have to, change sites. And just Sandwich Road's a great place for them, and that's where they do have their storage shed, and they can keep all their equipment right there.
Anybody else on the board have?
So this is a permanent?
This would be, a permanent thing, we're hoping, and, I mean, it would work for everybody, but the biggest impact would be for, flag football. I would assume lacrosse would probably try to start, but they play most of their games on Saturdays.
So is it for 12 months of the year?
Yeah,
3 months?
12 months would be, very acceptable.
Okay.
And we would definitely listen to any,
Football.
voices from
John?
the Unitarian and the Jewish congregation.
What is the starting time you're trying to get this changed to?
9 a.m.
9 a.m.? And you want to do it, it's a Sunday only issue?
Yeah, it's 8 or 9 a.m. the rest of the days of the week, but Sunday's the one day that flag football plays, and
Would you actually use it 12 months out of the year on a Sunday?
no.
So,
It would probably be, June, May, June, July, or no, May and June, and then September, October, beginning of November. There's been relatively very few requests for the field in the summertime, for mornings.
okay, thank you.
Paul, anything?
I have one comment. The only abutter that seems to be affected by this is the church,
Yes,
and they support it fully.
yeah, well, there's the Jewish congregation that's there as well.
So there should be no reason to not lift that restriction. Thank you.
Okay, comments from the public, please? Please state your name.
Hello, I'm Susan McCord. I'm the governing board president of the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Falmouth on 840 Sandwich Road. As president of the UU Falmouth, I wish to thank you for allowing me to speak this evening about the request by Mr. Joe Olnick, director of the rec department, to eliminate the condition that Sunday activities shall not commence before noon on either field on Sunday mornings. The mission of our congregation includes supporting our community and our neighbors, including the athletes and families who participate in the activities at the Sandwich Road fields. So on behalf of the governing board and our members, I want to express our support for removing the Sunday morning restriction, and we look forward to other opportunities to be a good neighbor and support our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public who wishes? Yes, sir.
Thank you. My name is Robert Brown. I'm the chairman of the Recreation Committee. In addition, I was involved with the Falmouth Youth football, the flag, for 8 years, and minus one COVID year. First, I'd like to ask that we be at least Falmouth Youth football can set up at 8:30 in the morning on Sundays. Then the players come at 9. I'd hate to see them get in trouble. For people showing up at 8 o'clock to set up the fields, the cones, set up, maybe put the goalposts in and get the uniforms out and football. So I wouldn't want anyone to get into any trouble for showing up at 8:30 in the morning. The Recreation Committee has been discussing this probably for at least 6 years. Lacrosse has asked us to make some changes. Falmouth Youth football, when it was the tackle, they've asked us to make some changes at the Recreation Committee. And it's finally come to a head because of the road race, Falmouth in the fall, and as well as another Cape Cod Marathon, has changed some plans in their race. And it's not that we're moving for just the road race. It just makes more sense for the program to move. And the reason is they have the shed there. They don't have to lug the equipment around. And even if we gave concessions to the road race for our time slots at Falmouth Heights Field, there's no place for us to go sometimes because Trotting Park is already taken by soccer programs. And there's another issue that concerns the Recreation Committee when it comes to Sunday recreation in the Heights. We don't know what may happen with Mayflower Wind. Their second alternative is to go through Central Park, the Falmouth Heights Fields. And if that occurs, and occurs in the fall, we have nowhere to play. Trotting Park has soccer on Saturdays, and they have soccer on Sundays. So the only opportunity we'd be able to play at Charting Park is basically end of October, November, and December, and I don't think we'll get much of a turnout. So on behalf of the Recreation Committee, I would ask that you allow use of the field from 8:30 in the morning year-round, but I'd suggest that Falmouth Youth Football would only be using it nine times, and over a course of probably 11, 12 weeks, and that there might be rain dates, and they don't play Columbus Day weekend. So we get 2 rain dates that may go into like the 2nd or 3rd week of November. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else from the public? Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Jack Afarian. I am the race director for the Cape Cod Marathon. We are just one of 2 or 3 or maybe more events that have come into conflict with the youth flag football. We understand how important all sports are in the town, and the youth flag football has worked with us tremendously to try to figure out the best place for them so that they wouldn't be interrupted. So I want to thank the Youth Flag Football Organization for trying to work with us, and the agreement that we came to seemed like the best place for this so that they would not run into interference every 2 or 3 or 4 weeks trying to get the kids out there playing football. So the use of the field on Sandwich Road seems to be a great spot for them. It would guarantee them the field at the time that they need, and they wouldn't have to worry about me or the other events that are constantly trying to get in their way. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak?
Hi, I'm Christina Stanley. I'm here on behalf of the Falmouth Road Race. I'm an event manager with the team, and I was there last November. I was one of the other races that was used the Heights field at the end of the race, and we were very, thank you to Mr. Brown, thank you to everyone who helped us last year. We all worked together and partnered together, and they were incredibly accommodating and made it for a great experience for the runners. So we support Joe and all of their efforts and their hope to move permanently.
Thank you. Anyone else? Bob?
I think it's great. I love to see kids out playing. The sound of kids out in the field playing is music to my ears. I just wonder if you've heard anything from the people across the street, because what I don't want to do is read in the Enterprise the same type of pickleball conundrum that we have. So I just wonder if people across the street who are residents there, they're not just using a facility nearby. Have you heard anything?
I haven't heard any complaints from residents as far as the kids and the playing of the games. I've had some complaints when cars are parked facing their houses and their headlights flash into their windows. That's, later in the day when the games are getting over. But no verbal complaints about any of the kids and the activities that have gone on there at all.
Okay.
And I would have to definitely stay close, pay attention to the Unitarian and Jewish congregation as far as parking, just to make sure they're not parking in the church where they're not supposed to.
Yeah. And I assume if anybody across the street did have an issue, they would be here tonight, so.
Yeah.
Obviously, we haven't heard anybody.
And
So.
if they have a complaint, they'll be sure to call me, because the pickleball people do. Thank you.
Okay. Well, it seems that everybody here is in favor of this. It seems that the board is in favor of this. Am I correct in that? Okay. Paul?
Yeah, I'd just like to make a comment.
Sure.
I attended the select board meeting a couple of weeks ago when Mr. Brown made a presentation for the Recreation Committee. I thought it was a very impressive presentation. It covered a lot of ground, more than I realized the Recreation Department was doing.
Yep.
And I thought it was a remarkable presentation. I hope you get the support as requested from the select board when we get to the budget in November.
We are working on those kind of things, and
wish you
it's
well.
good to know we have support from the Recreation Committee and members of the community.
Well, you have a lot
Helps
of-
me do my job a lot easier.
Well, you got a lot of missing people.
Definitely missing some people, but we're addressing that as we speak.
So it seems like we can have a decision on the 23rd.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
Positive motion for the next meeting.
Yeah, since we didn't hear any negatives.
Yeah. We'll draft one up and you can read it into the record then.
Thank you.
Good.
Okay, so now we got to get our recused people back in the room. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
It's got a little warm here, too. I can turn all the lights out, Chad.
Feeling for the process to pursue, but we'll do what we need to do with the select board to revise that decision at a future, but presumably near-term point in this permitting.
All set? Thank you. I want to thank you again for really reading Mr. Cod right and sticking to it. It's really, for the first one out of the gate, to have it hit so much of all the requirements is really a pleasure. It's a really nice thing. Thank you, all of you who were involved in making sure that it did that. That's really
Is there a
good.
particular plan you'd like me to leave on the screen?
I think what you've got out there is going to be helpful to us.
Or this one.
But let's hear now from the board, and we began there before, so, Jim, you want to go?
I have a question for Jed. When I usually look at preparing for meetings, I go to Code of Falmouth on the internet, and I go to the code, and it only goes up to 240, 255. And this is 242, 56.
Right.
How are we supposed to prepare for these meetings? Where do we go look up? I know I had the Mr. Cod separately because I was part of the planning board, so I had it in an email. How does the general public get to see that? Well, I couldn't find it today at all. The only reason why I knew about it, well, I had it, it was in an email that we all had. So I linked them together, but where does the public go to see our zoning?
So there's a couple of places. The Mr. Cod, or the mixed residential and commercial overlay district bylaw, is located on our planning page. On the right hand, or on the left hand side, there's a banner where you can click on zoning, and included in that is the previously recodified bylaw, the mixed residential and commercial overlay, but also the links to all of our zoning maps, and I believe the E-code as well. So there's two places. You can go to the E-code, but you're right. It wasn't incorporated into the E-code because of recodification that happened shortly thereafter at town meeting, as you're aware. Yeah. And of course, that process has been delayed, we'll call it. And so with the hopes that that will complete itself, we'll call it, recodification. It will be included in the new bylaw, but you can go to the planning department's homepage, and you can find it there.
And it's right
under
there.
zoning.
So, but is all the zoning on the planning? So the whole bylaw, all 240 is there? Or I have to go to one place for up to 240, 255, and above 255, I have to go to another place, is that?
Which is just 256, yes.
Right.
Mr. Cod, mixed
Okay.
residential and commercial.
Found it a little difficult to prepare because I couldn't do that, but I got it.
Now let's come back to the applicant. John, did you want to comment?
I have a question. What is the design for heating and air conditioning for this building, for the individual units?
Bill Fornashari from BF Architects. Each unit's going to have its own package unit within the unit.
Is it going to protrude like a mini split that we see in hotel rooms, or is it going to be on the roof, or is it going to be?
There'll be compressors on the roof, which is why we've got the parapet that surrounds that front section. So if there are compressors, they'll be hidden behind the parapet, so you won't see any mechanical equipment.
Okay, it'll be individual units.
Individual units.
Okay. And I don't see anything here from the fire department. Have they weighed in yet on this?
I don't think so. I think we're still waiting on some other comments also.
I'm presuming the building's going to be sprinklered?
Yes.
It has to be.
Okay.
Any accommodations for solar?
The roofs are flat, so we can get panels on the roof. We haven't gotten that far as investigations. We're working with a HERS rater right now as we speak to look at some of the energy efficiency of the building.
I think this is great as far as the use, putting the apartments, the mixed use and all that, but, and I realize that there are buildings, the flat roof doesn't bother me. As far as the siding goes, I don't think everything has to be shingles and clapboards and gray with white trim. I like a mixture, make the street more eclectic, but I really do not like the facade on this design. To me, it's just too plain, too flat. It looks more like it could be in a, a tech park or something. It just, we're trying to improve the look of Main Street and enhance it. And the building that's being torn down, it's an old style gas station, has a lot of character, and we like to see things with a little more character. We don't want to have it just something that gets thrown up and using the other ugly buildings on the street as an excuse for doing that, so.
That'd be great.
Thanks, Bob. Jim?
One, I think if you did a color rendering, the building would be a lot more attractive. I also share Bob's opinion. It fits everything we want to do for Mr. Cod, but I don't really find it that it's attractive of a building, and I'm just wondering if there's some little bits of details punching it up, just making it look a little better with, I mean, it could be. And I think if we actually saw color, it wouldn't be so monotone. You really lose what you're doing there. And if I think color would help once, and some details. I don't know exactly what, but not expensive details, not changing the floor plan or anything. Just the outside look.
Sure.
Touch it up a little bit.
Some we can definitely look at. I have no objections to that at all.
And I really think in this, because it's so important, that we do get a color rendering, because this is on our main street.
Yeah.
And we want everyone to know and understand what we're approving, because this will be the model for the next one. So I just want to be real careful.
We do, right. I feel exactly the same way. I'm looking at it saying, can't we even have shutters? Just to break up.
Don't get into the barn doors, Pat.
Yeah, I won't. But just something to break it up and make it more
detail.
interesting.
I don't have any objections to that, and it's definitely something we can look at.
I would like to look at it.
Because
As I walk down Main Street and say, wow, this is what we really want to see further. Because that whole thing is going to be fabulous, to have that many rental apartments in there.
Sure.
It's going to be great.
I tend to agree, and, you're from Plymouth, so you understand what the issues are in downtown. So I would encourage
Absolutely.
you to take a look at it.
Yep.
It wouldn't cost that much to do that.
Sure. No, like I said, we have no objections. We'll work with the owners. It's something I think we can definitely work on.
Pam?
So I'll first say that as Vice Chair of the Affordable Housing Committee, thank you. It's so important for Falmouth and all of the Cape to provide some affordable housing because there are calls that come in every day asking for a place to live. And this will at least provide families, with a 2-bedroom apartment, a place to live. And if multiple builders could do that around town, we'd be in great shape. In terms of the looks of the building, it's a little different. I find it very industrial looking, and I find it very unattractive. And I think any new building that goes up, especially in the center of town, should be wow, that looks wonderful. This doesn't fit that criteria for me at all. And actually, when I look at it from here, it reminds me of if the side windows were doors, you would walk through like the lobby of a Marriott. I mean, it just doesn't cut it for me. And I want the families that are going to live there to feel like they're living in some home-like environment.
Sure. And that's why we attend these meetings, to get your feedback. So I'm not opposed to anything that anyone on the board has said to date.
Thank you. And I would like to really thank Bob for putting it so well, and all the comments of the other members of the board, because it's clear we're thinking the same thing. And you have the honor of being the first, Mr. Codd, to go up, but the disadvantage of being the first. So this is really going to be a very important building in town. Other people who are thinking about doing it are going to be looking at it and saying, oh, look at that. We can build a cheap motel and get away with it, because now that's what it's looking like.
Sure.
And it's an unfortunate first stab. I appreciate the materials, nice materials. There are other nice materials, but those are nice materials. But the form is really very disappointing. I wonder if you are familiar with the Cape Cod Commission's guidance on design for the whole Cape that has been seconded by, I believe, Falmouth's design guidance for commercial buildings that gives actual drawings of the kind of character that we really want to encourage for our downtown and for our other business districts, for that matter. And it would really be helpful to you. And so there's that. Please take a look at them.
Sure.
Some time ago, it's certainly pre-COVID, so 3 years ago, this board adopted some design guidelines also that you can get from the town planner. What you've done here was not foreseen by the 3 members of the board that worked so hard on the language, with help of real estate attorneys and other people, on the language of Mr. Codd. When we were saying 3/4, we went back and forth, because most of the guidelines are for 2.5 stories for town, not 3. And so where do you get there? And we wanted to have as many units as we could get in, for obvious reasons, for the housing shortage and for lowering the rents possible for the units. So we came up with 3/4, and what we were picturing was a gambrel roof. And that's what we discussed among ourselves. We never foresaw that somebody would come up with, well, gee, we'll make the front part one height, and then we can make the rest of it a full 3 stories. I just missed that one entirely. And wish we hadn't. We would have said, no, don't do that.
Sure.
That really won't look good. We were picturing setbacks on that 3rd story, or gables, or some articulation of the roof line, not more flat. And as Bob said, to now, you're quite right to have collected all those other buildings that are flat roof. And let's look at the dates on those buildings, because that matters. Those aren't the dates that were really good design dates. And we would rather see them be good design dates. So we really applaud what you've done, You've really laid out, these are the requirements, this is what the town's trying to do, but we're also trying, particularly with our first 1, 2, 3, however many Mr. Codds, that they set a character that is going to be a wonderful character for downtown Falmouth. So I'm glad that you're willing to listen to that and not feel insulted. I was afraid
No,
of how that
absolutely
would,
not. No.
how that would be taken, because when you look up in any dictionary, the Google dictionary, of what does a barracks look like, here you are. Long, stripped down, no detailing, every window, like every other window, no articulation on it. This is a barracks building, and we really hope it will be better when you bring it back. But in the meantime, we probably are going to visit the site as a board. Jim?
I just want to comment, they even referenced the building that I'm in at 189 Main Street, the Eight Cousins building, we call it. It is a flat roof building, but if you look at the building, the windows have, columns built around them, lintels, things that pop out, and it is a really beautiful brick building, old. It was built in 1929, so and it's a gorgeous old building. And this is just a box.
So far.
So far.
And I don't
But the
disagree
box
with you.
it's got all the right stuff inside.
And they do have a bike shelter,
Yeah, they got,
so
it's,
they hit on all of them.
Anything further from the board? Let's hear from the public. Is there anyone here in the public who would like to comment on what you've heard and seen? Please come forward and give your name.
Hi, I'm Chris O'Connor. I live at 480 Main Street, Unit 3. It's on Nice Pond condominium, and it's adjacent to the property we're talking about. I'm very happy to hear what you've been saying about the vision that you have for Falmouth, because I was concerned when I saw that. Where are we going here? We have a beautiful community where we live. We have Firestone on one side, we have Paul's Automotive was on the other side, but they're only open Monday to Friday. They're not open at night. They're not barely open on the weekend. So we've had a very calm, peaceful community there. I'm concerned about some of the regulations here. The 2.75 is what I read, and now we're talking about something that's over 3 stories. We should also have a 20-foot setback, from what I've read, from our fence to their building. I don't think this lays out correctly, and it's hard to tell because we don't have measurements to be able to verify that. Also, they don't have all the trees showing there that are on their property, and some of the trees, they say, are only 10 feet. I think they labeled them all at around 10 feet, 10 or 12 feet. They're actually more like 40 to 50 feet. They're substantial trees that provide great coverage and views for us at the condominium. So there are some things that I think need to be reviewed about the plan that they have so far, and hopefully they'll make the changes that you've suggested today.
And I assume over time we'll see a landscape plan. Is there anyone, thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak?
My name is John Scarpolini. I'm at 480 Main Street, Unit 6, in Nice Pond condominiums. And I share the same views that Chris had. And I share your views also, because when I saw this, I couldn't believe it. This looks like something that belongs in Dorchester. This isn't Falmouth, Mass. This is not Falmouth, Mass. This is not what we want in Falmouth. We didn't move here because of this. As far as the mixed-use development, wonderful. We love it. We think it's great. We think it's a good opportunity for it. We need it, but no, don't need it there. You can't put a 3-story building on that property. The parking there is atrocious once this is developed. Bob, I think you said something about a 125-seat restaurant?
That's what had previously been.
Previously proposed. That's what I read in the newspaper. You got to be kidding me. You can't even get out of our parking lot at our unit at 480 in the summertime. You can't get out of our own parking lot with 16 units there. Okay? The other questions I have is the drainage. That's going to be an asphalt back, I'm sure. We've had special drainage we had to put in. Charlie Marzot built it. That took care of the drainage problem. We had to drain it almost all the way down and build a gazebo and build a drainage under it. I'd like to know what the drainage problem, the drainage system is there. The landscaping, on the side on our property line, on the Nice Neck side, we've got about 50 beautiful trees. And when we met with the previous owner, he said, don't worry about the trees. It's going to help us out and help you out also. You take those trees down and you put lighting in that parking lot, can you imagine what's going to happen to our units? We won't even be able to sleep at night. As far as the 15 or 18 air conditioning units on the top of a roof, making all kinds of noise at night, clicking on and off all the time, I mean, it's just, it doesn't make sense. And the dumpster, they're going to put a dumpster in there. I mean, there's rodents down on the property now. I mean, having a dumpster on a property is just not, we have town trash pickup. Eliminate that problem. I mean, I think there's a lot of issues here that needs to be discussed. And I really don't, I just feel, you know, I love Falmouth. I want to stay in Falmouth. But we're going to look at something like this, and in an area where the traffic is so bad now, and one of your previous people over here was saying about the sub shop or the Italian baker. He's talking about 6 cars can't get out on the main street. Well, we're going to be talking about 30 or 40 more cars coming out there. It's just not right. It's just not right. And that's all I had to say.
Thank you. Anyone else? Please step forward.
My name's Richard O'Connor. I live at 480 Main Street, also on Nice Pond. I'm wondering, I mean, with the design being so ugly, so much of a box, why does it have to be that side of the lot? It would help us out if he moved it to closer to the Chinese restaurant side. At least would have a little buffer to maybe keep a few more trees, keep a few more. He's only going to have one access in, and no other access out. It doesn't seem like it's going to work. I mean, I think they could design around the corner and make it more commercially prettier, I guess. I mean, that's just a straight box. Maybe you could angle it around or something like that. It would probably give them more room. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Mariana Scapolini. I live at 480 Main Street, right next to this, where where Paul's Automotive is. And our street looks like it's in Nantucket. It's so charming. And we have all that beautiful, all the trees, high, 40 feet high, and we never see anything but trees. It's beautiful. And now we'll see, they're gonna take down a lot of trees. There's 19 feet from the fence. It's not gonna have any trees. We're gonna have that shed with all the dumpster and the air conditioning humming all night, lights. We've lived a beautiful life over there, and it's just not Falmouth. We have a gorgeous center in town. This is again, like a city building. It's not Falmouth. We have to have some pride and make sure, I know we need housing. I understand we need housing, absolutely. But this is not a beautiful building. This is not charming Cape Cod. This is not charming Falmouth. And there's so many concerns here. What is that commercial space going to be? What is it going to be? That's what we want to know too. What are they gonna do with that 900 square feet? So my heart is broken, I can tell you that. We all sit on our front porches and we look at the sky and we look at the trees, and now this is what we'll see. Thank you.
Anyone else?
One last comment?
Well, let's let everyone speak first, and then we can have seconds, and I think Mr.
Evening.
Allen's going to respond.
I'm Lynn Shapiro. I also live at 480 Main Street at Nice Pond, Unit 8. I just want to preface my remarks with the fact I'm all for mixed use. I was very pleased when I read the article, and I think it's very necessary in Falmouth. I too, I'm glad to hear many of you felt the same way about the design of the building, because it doesn't have the charm, and it is right on Main Street, and we want, especially this being the first one of this sort, we want it to really speak to the community. I have a couple of questions. One is there going to be another egress or way to exit from the parking lot I know the driveway is right there coming out to Main Street, but that's one of my questions. What about overflow parking, especially those people who are at the commercial part of the building? And I'm curious what kind of restaurant is going to be in the bottom of the building. And one last thing about the trees. I love the trees. That's one reason why we were attracted to On Nyes Pond. The landscaping in our complex itself is beautiful, but we also, as was mentioned, we have these beautiful trees that we see on the other side of our fence. So I hope many of those trees are saved.
Anyone else? Have your points been made? Yes, there's,
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I also live at 480 Main Street. I'm new to Falmouth, and 3 things I love about this area: the people, the natural beauty, and the character. And I really am not going to say much more because I agree with all of my neighbors, but I really urge the planning board that natural beauty should always be preserved. And there's always ways to do it. The trees that are in that area can be saved, and you can still have wonderful housing. Thank you.
thank you. I think everyone who wanted to speak has spoken once. Oh, I think someone was ahead of you.
Once again, Richard O'Connor from 480 Main Street. I'm wondering about the top of that. Why do they have that flat roof right in the front? Is that going to be, there was rumors of a bar or put something up there so they could make it like a patio. I don't know what that part will be above the realtor place.
I think we should wait for the second iteration. Anyone else who wanted to speak? Yep.
John Scarpellini again, 480 Main Street. I think this is probably a question that's already been answered, Bob's addressed, but you know, back when, I think, that was a Jenny gas station, a long, long, long time ago. I remember it, John. And I remember that one of the people that built our units, Charlie Mazot, had a purchase and sale agreement on that property prior to Paul's Automotive, and he couldn't get a clean 21E on that property. I'm concerned about that. And I think that should be addressed, and I think people should know about the 21E. Charlie Mazar couldn't buy that property because he drilled and drilled and drilled, and from what we understand, there wasn't a clean 21E. Secondly, I know there's probably a lot of, what's the word I want to say? Well, anyway, my question is, these people that own this property, can that be converted? Can those units be converted at some point in time into condominiums?
No, we're not going to have a conversation back and forth with the audience,
Can
so
those,
please
can
don't
those,
do that.
my question is, over a period of time, can those 15 units be converted to condominiums?
So, Mr. Ammon, do you want to respond tonight, or do you want to, I see the architect, the engineers, they're listening carefully. I think they're taking notes. Do you want to respond tonight, or, okay, your turn.
And you're gonna have rental apartments there, people are gonna be moving in, they're gonna be moving out, guest parking, people coming? That's my question.
Thank you. Bob?
I field a few of the questions anyway, those that I remember, and maybe you can remind me about some I might forget. So in no particular order, the Mr. Cod bylaw requires that the apartments be affordable in perpetuity. I'm not sure that they expressly prohibit creating a condominium so that theoretically you could have 15 different owners, but that's not at all the intent, that they have to be kept as apartments, and the affordability requirements are in perpetuity under this bylaw. Whereas under some 40B projects they would not be, but you've provided that in perpetuity. As our architect has said, he's going to, he's heard the comments of the board and the public, and will make changes that hopefully you consider very responsive to it. There will only be one curb cut. There are 6 more parking spaces required than the bylaw, provided than the bylaw requires. There seems to be some confusion about a restaurant use. What the select board approved for the flow neutral bylaw was a 125-seat restaurant, which is substantially fewer seats than Peking Palace. But that is not what we're proposing. We're proposing a commercial space which is 900 square feet, not much bigger, or perhaps not bigger at all, than the size of this room. That's the extent of the commercial space that's being provided, and it's along Main Street. So there isn't any expectation that there'll be any kind of restaurant on the site. The area above the commercial space on that second floor, where presently it's flat, but I'm sure it's going to get reconfigured. One time we had some thought about it being a rooftop garden for tenants. It seemed like a great idea, but there are construction problems with that, and that's not what we're thinking. But it's not going to be any kind of commercial space, let alone a outdoor bar. From my visits to the property, I think there's a lot of this development will be in the areas where there where there aren't trees. We'll take a look at what trees and what can be saved if we make some changes to the plan. This, of course, is in the business redevelopment district. It used to be in business 2. It's unreasonable to expect that some kind of new development wouldn't be created. Both the parking and the traffic need generated by this proposed use is almost a small fraction of the traffic and parking that would be allowed by other by right commercial uses. We'll obviously can think about how to keep lighting from shining towards neighbors. That should be a requirement. And we'll do the best we can and make some changes to the plan.
Thank you. For a first hearing on this project, which is our, maiden project for Mr. Cod, we're not supposed to say Mr. Cod, we're supposed to say mixed commercial overlay district, but you know what I mean. So for a first hearing, I think it's gone well, because people have spoken up, they've really thought about it. The designers and owners have heard what the concerns are, and we really look forward to seeing your response, very much so. But I want to thank you again for paying such close attention to the requirements of Mr. Cod. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on now, so if your issue has been addressed and you want to leave, please feel free to do that. Oh, yes.
Madam Chair?
No.
You
Oh, wait a minute. I think-
continue for
wait.
a date certain,
They will not be notified.
No
will
new
not be-
notifications.
so before they leave.
Do we know when you're coming back? Can you come back on the, might be too soon to come back in 2 weeks.
Hammer 'em down.
Could you hold your conversations outdoors, not here? We're trying to find a date that you might be coming back.
You won't be notified again, so we need to have a date.
Now.
So you know it when we'll be coming back.
Right.
That will be ready as soon as you're ready, so that's 2 weeks fine.
Really, you've got one up? Goodness. Okay, then you'll be back on the 23rd?
Yeah, 23rd wise.
So if you want to come back to see what happens next, 2 weeks from tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, if I may,
Yeah?
before you move on, you may want to discuss a site visit.
Oh,
Yes.
with the board, we do want a site visit, and maybe before the 23rd.
I would suggest it before the 23rd. So your options are, if you want to do a group site visit, obviously you've done them before, we would have to publicize it schedule a time with the applicant that would work out. Or you can do individual site visits on your own. My understanding is that the applicant has staked the property
Yeah.
to show you where the new building would be located and where the new parking area would be.
I would rather go myself as a group and benefit from everybody's thoughts, actually.
Oh, we can't
And
discuss
well,
it.
their expertise about looking at stakes.
I'm intimately familiar with the site, so I don't need to go. I really know it really well.
So just to be clear, on a site visit, because it is a public meeting, you cannot share any opinions. You can only ask the applicant questions and receive information back.
But we can share information about the bylaws and requirements, can't we?
You're really not supposed to share information between each other. You're only supposed to be there to ask the applicant information
Okay.
about the site.
So I think that we would probably have to find a way by,
I'll set that up.
yeah,
So you'd like to do a
Groups
group,
of 3, we have no problem. Right?
provided that you don't have a quorum?
Yeah.
Yes, you're all set.
Just go 3 at a time and you have no issue.
I'll be in
Right.
touch with all of you and see your availability, see if you'd rather do it yourselves or as a group. I'll be in touch this week.
or groups of 3 is the third possibility. Okay, thank you. We're ready to move now?
I believe so.
all the time.
Okay, we have one more application. The applicant is 237 Old Main Street, which is in North Falmouth, a site plan review application to add over 500 square feet of roof area and more than 2 parking spaces to the existing property located at 237 Old Main Road, which is really in the village of North Falmouth. And it looked to me as if the roof area is over porches.
I'm sorry, what was that, Ms. Harris?
Oh, and notices, Paul, please.
Notice, excuse me, notice this public hearing was published on July 22nd, 2022, and 33 abutters were notified by regular mail.
33, that's a lot.
I have a question. Jed, is this the conversion bylaw that we're looking at? The condominium conversion bylaw?
That's before zoning.
What?
Just site plan
Site plan
review.
review, but that's what this is being built under, though?
Yes.
Under the conversion bylaw, okay.
I can go over all that, Mr. Fox.
I'm all set now. I just want to know where we're going.
Okay. We're ready.
Good evening, Ms. Harris, members of the board. For the record, my name is Kevin Clower. I'm an attorney with Ahmed Clower Law Firm here in Falmouth, and I'm here tonight representing the applicant, Brad Hanley, joined by Mr. Hanley, as well as Eric McLaughlin, Mike Borselli, our engineer, and Lauren O'Neill, the architect on this project. We are before you tonight seeking site plan review approval. This project is a conversion of an existing dwelling into 4 condominium units. That conversion is pursuant to 24023B, which is a special permit issued by the zoning board. But because of the addition of parking spaces for the fact that there's new units, it therefore requires site plan review. We're not requesting approval of the overall project. That's going to be subject to zoning and historic. Both of those applications have been submitted. We're scheduled to be in front of zoning at the end of this month, and we're in front of historical for the September hearing. But we are here tonight asking you to review the site plan. So currently, we have a large dilapidated building located near the front of the lot. The lot is just shy of an acre. Well, it's 39,894 square feet. The existing lot coverage by structure is 8.6%. What we're proposing is to rehabilitate the existing structure and also to add a detached garage to accommodate the parking and also to provide some excess parking on the site. So the proposed improvements to this property really are the rehabilitation of the existing building. There'll be some additions of new decks and patios, but those are fairly minimal. There was a new 10-bedroom Title V wastewater system being proposed in the addition of a detached 4-car garage at the rear of the lot. The building, both as existing and proposed, complies with setback requirements as well as all lot coverage requirements, both by structures and by structures, paving, and parking. Really, the only change we're looking to make to the site is the addition of the driveway and the addition of the garage. Other than that, the structure is going to remain largely as it is, but for the addition of some small decks and patios. So really, what we're here for tonight is the driveway and the garage. We are aware of the engineering referral with their comment that the drive aisle width doesn't meet the bylaw requirements of 24 feet for two-way traffic. However, in discussing this with Mr. Borselli, I have never seen that requirement applied to residential construction. I've only seen it applied to commercial uses. I don't know that I've seen any driveway be required to be 24 feet wide, even when there are a few units accessing off that driveway. I believe that this project meets the requirements for site plan review approval. Between myself, Mr. Borselli, Ms. O'Neill, and Mr. Hanley, I think we'd be happy to address any questions that you might have. But I don't think there's much more for me to go into, because I think the review by this board is fairly straightforward tonight.
Did you see the planning department comments?
I did, and I think the only things that really came up in the planning board and in the staff review were
Drive aisles.
the drive aisles, which I mentioned, landscaping. I know we did show some landscaping on the plan. We'd be happy to show some additional landscaping if the board would like, and then the fact that the applicant needs a special permit, which we know and have already applied for.
Okay, so, board comments, Pam? No? Paul?
Yeah.
Pat?
I don't have any problem with the driveway. It's wider than our street.
Yeah.
Neither do I, I'm fine with it.
Yeah. And it's, I haven't driven by it yet, but that's the existing curb cut?
Bear with me.
Yeah, I couldn't really tell from the pictures that,
So, I don't believe I don't believe there's an existing curb cut there, so that is gonna require a driveway permit from engineering.
okay, so,
It was previously accessed via an easement on the neighboring property.
okay.
That's been developed.
That's it, Bob?
Yeah, yep.
John?
I'm almost set.
And I'm all set also. I'd like the record to show that we did receive a letter from Stephen and Milady Dixon, who are butters, and they're concerned about trees that they have planted newly, and they'd like them protected during the construction.
So,
Do you have a copy of that?
I don't know that I think I do have a copy of that. I think we.
Handwritten.
Yep,
It's handwritten,
I think we
yeah.
saw that
Just wanted
about
to
2
be
weeks
aware
ago.
of it.
So,
Osaka's.
I know that the engineering department's looking for the soil and sediment erosion control, which is something we'd certainly be complying with, and I think that would be more than sufficient to protect the trees that are on their property, which are to the south of this, I believe. And obviously, we're talking about the applicant adding more potential landscaping along that area as well, so I don't foresee any real issue with that.
Okay, I think our concerns have been met, so we could request a positive,
Would you like to see an updated landscaping plan
I
before
think that
doing
we
so?
would before then. Yep. Could you have that ready for the 23rd?
Yeah, I don't think that'd be an issue.
Great.
So, a positive motion and then.
Positive motion, right, for the
next
23rd.
Contingent on-
Mm-hmm.
And we can review the landscape plan and vote
Right.
accordingly.
It's not our purview, but looking at the whole project, it looks really good.
Do we need a
Very
response
nice.
from the fire department?
We need that, we need, the additional landscaping information, but then we'd be all set. There's no need to hold it up further.
We can
Unless,
certainly-
Mike, did you want to say something? No?
It's entirely up to you. You can continue to the next meeting and make sure that they've addressed all the comments from the engineering division. I can't remember them offhand. Or you can, ask for a draft motion for the next meeting
I think
contingent
we'll
upon
do
getting all
both.
those
We're
addressed.
really continuing, we'll see what they have, we're gonna assume that they've complied, and we'll have the draft motion, so it can be dealt with.
Okay.
Right.
Yep, and we can stay in contact with the applicant to make sure that they've got everything wrapped up right before the meeting.
Jed's on speed dial 6 at this point, so.
Numerous people.
Okay, I think we're good.
Oh, I think you have a question.
Oh, sorry.
Nice to see that building.
My name is Anthony Petrucci at 243 Old Main Road, right next door to this. And they're applying for 500 square feet additional space within the existing foundation, am I correct?
Yes.
All right, so that was that discussed tonight?
Special permit, ZBA. We're doing
That's where
site
that
plan.
is done.
We're doing site plan tonight. Yeah.
Just site plan, and that's for the driveway and the extra parking?
Yeah.
Fine, thank you.
Thursday night, right? Or when do they do it?
So technically,
Yeah.
they trigger site plan review because of the roof area as well.
Right.
So they've added some roof area and they've added some parking. That's site plan review. But to what Jim mentioned, the conversion is through the special permit.
We're not the
ZBA.
special permit, we're not the granting authority for the special permit. We only do site plan review.
And just a point of clarification.
Up to Mike.
If you approve this, and I don't have a tremendously big problem with this, but if you approve this tonight, and the site plan includes 500 square feet of additional space vis-à-vis the dormers on the third floor, or is that going to be approved by ZBA? I'm confused.
We're not approving anything tonight, one. We're not doing that. And I don't believe it's about dormers on the third floor.
Well, that's where the 500 square feet
So you might want to look more
comes from.
carefully at what is actually planned and will be discussed by the ZBA.
Okay, that's a point of clarification, that's all. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I think just for the record, if I may, the trigger, the 500 square foot trigger was the covered porches. That's roof area that sent them to the planning board for site plan review, just for clarification.
I thought it was the parking, that's why I.
And the parking.
And the parking, yeah.
And then there's obviously roof area for the garage as well, so all of that combined.
Now we're all set.
I think so.
We're all
If we could
set.
get rid of that ringing.
I feel like
What is that?
You know, I feel like you're upping the level of difficulty, you know, like you see an archer when someone's like trying to distract them.
Right, it's like the building has
We don't like what you
tinnitus.
say.
You're
My
a little
goodness.
like a laser pointer on my face while I'm trying to
It's been
present.
a night.
That's what I hear in my ears all the time, only.
Bob's going, wait, there's ringing?
This is not just your ears. Okay, I think we're moving on.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
We'll see you on the 23rd, is that what you said?
23rd,
Wonderful.
2 weeks.
And those are your plans?
Okay, we still have some business to conduct. We have some discussion things. First, we have committee reports. Are there any that we didn't know about in advance? No, apparently not. But we did want to discuss the zoning bylaw recodification that is getting itself sorted out. I think that you all received a copy that looks like this. Yes, I see that
yeah.
you did. Okay, so it's the 10 pages with no cover letter, no title, no explanation, that came from the Attorney General's office and went from there to our consultants, where they added everything that has been yellow highlighted. So that's all the new stuff. And those of us who then met with them last week all agreed that we all calmed down a great deal once we saw what was written in the yellow highlights. The first point that the consultants wanted to make was that the Attorney General, what has been done here is mentioning changes. They're just changes. This is a change, this is a change, this is a change. There's no statement that anything is in violation of a bylaw, a state law, is wrong language, none of that. So we don't have to consider that. All we have to do is look at change and the scope of the change and whether or not the notice and the warrant that was, the notice that was sent to the public, and particularly the warrant, the way it was written when town meeting voted for it, did that language prepare town meeting members for this level of change? Because we were representing it as, we're updating the bylaw to state law, and we are not making big changes. We are making only corrections and reformatting to make it easier to use. What this is saying, once you go through it, and I suppose you've gone through it now, is that a number of them are saying, well, wait a minute, the AG's office couldn't find the old language, so they're saying it was a change. but it wasn't. It's just that it was scattered across the old bylaw in such a way that they didn't find it. But in fact, they did find some things that the group, when we went through it, agreed, yeah, that is a change. And we're going to move those to phase 2. We're not going to try to bring real change back to town meeting in November. So where it leaves us now on recodification is the official bylaw that the town is operating under now is the old bylaw. The other boards have been notified, the select board, the zoning board. We know we're working under the old bylaw. We're not working under the new bylaw because the new bylaw approved by town meeting had some changes in it that were not flagged. So in November, we'll go back to town meeting and say, here were the things we should have flagged. And then we will get an approval we expect. So that's where we think we are. Just to be really clear, Mr. Cod was approved at the same town meeting. That's a separate approval. That's still approved. Mr. Cod is the bylaw of the town. That's been approved all the way through. Okay, so that's where we are. Any questions?
I do. I'm not sure I agree with your statement.
I might have misstated it.
Well, I think the intent is right, but when you go from words describing it to a checklist that says yes or no, it changes the bylaw quite a bit. And in my understanding, we had some uses in business zoning where multifamily has been allowed for a long time, and we said no. We had warehouse uses in the industrial park. It's there, they're built, there's 50 of them. But now because it says as use, it says no. That's a pretty substantial use when you have 20 buildings in the industrial park that are warehouse, and we just approve another one that's gonna have storage in it for contractors' yards, and they use it for storage, but because our bylaw doesn't say storage, it just goes by the no. I think we need to have some specific hearings on the impact of, I didn't know it when we did, I didn't realize it either, but the change of the format to just yes or no, or a special permit, it is having an impact. And I've had our planning board tell clients that they can't do it when they used to be able to do it. So I disagree with the characterization that we didn't make any really big changes, because I think we did, not intentionally, but we did.
No, that's not, first of all, I want to say that's not what I said.
Okay, I
It turned out-
misunderstood you. I
Okay,
thought
what
you
I
were saying
say-
everything's okay.
There are things that, in fact, weren't changes because they were already there, but they weren't found by the AG. But things that we agreed were changes. But I think it's important to pay attention, and you've raised the issue of process going forward. And what we are going to do, we have to hold public hearings to clear up
Yeah,
exactly.
that's exactly it. I just didn't want to waive it and say everything's going to be fixed. I
No,
wanted to
no,
have a
no.
hearing and talk about it. That's
We need to
fine. I'm
have
good.
public hearings.
I'm all
We
set.
need to air as many things that
I'm
need
all
to be
set.
aired, and you can.
I have to, yeah, fine. I'm good.
Thank you.
I'm all set.
And thank you. Okay. Other comments? Questions? Paul?
For purposes of this video audience here, can you identify the members of the working group who worked so hard on this? The group has worked very, very hard, but the members here worked on the bylaw with the consultants. Can you identify those for purposes of the
We'll
public?
raise our hands. The video's not working.
I know it's you too. Bob, you were on it too?
No, no. But the video is working?
Yep.
Huh. Okay, so Pat and I were on that committee, but I'd also like to point out, that's for the planning board, but the ZBA was also represented. They had 2 members, plus the ZBA administrator. We had the building commissioner, who I must say was not a diligent attender,
Which one?
unfortunately. The one that is now gone.
We've had 3 of them. while
Well,
we've been
this-
going through it.
this-
That's a joke, sorry.
This has been going on for 5 years.
I know.
It's been a really lengthy thing. We had town planners, past and present. We had
Town council.
council, past and present.
Right,
I think that does it.
I think so. I think
Right.
you've covered it, yep.
Well, the prior water superintendent was on it occasionally.
Right, we
Yeah.
called people in at different
Mhm.
times. We tried to really get people involved in reviewing it. We had real estate attorneys that gave their time to the town to review it. I mean, we tried as best we could to get people to be interested in it and come to the hearings on it, and that's not always successful. So that's who was there in the room where it
I think the point
happened.
is, when you say working group, sometimes the people are thinking 2 or 3 people from here worked in the corner somewhere and came back to the board. It was a much more widespread effort
Oh.
over a long period of time.
Right, thank you for bringing that
That's the point
out.
I'm trying to make. I think
Yeah.
the public needs to know that there was a lot of involvement from various groups in town.
There was, and there was a lot of other opportunities that people didn't pick up on and could have, but it's a big document. You know, it's chapter 240, but it's also 240 pages long, and it's not big type. So, you know, there's a lot, and even the AG's office, obviously, had trouble finding things.
May I make a comment too?
Please.
I think because I've been working on it for so many years, with a stop sort of thing, I don't think we could have accomplished what we did without our 2 consultants.
Oh, they were terrific.
We just couldn't have done it.
Well, one consultant was the head of the Municipal Services Department in the Attorney General's office, and it is that department that actually reviews these things. So he had been working as the supervisor of these kinds of reviews for years before he retired and became a consultant and was available to us. The other person, Bob Mitchell, has been a town planner himself. He's been a consultant for years to help other towns do recodification. He writes bylaws for towns. You can hire him to do this work for you. They're both very, very knowledgeable people. And they will be helping us with the public hearings.
Just a question. Do we have enough time to have the public hearings on this before town meeting?
Yeah,
Yes, you do.
it's a squeaker, but we do.
Are we gonna have one meeting for the whole thing, or are we gonna break it up? And I just don't see how you can get it done. I just question it, because I have,
Your questions alone are gonna take how many
no,
minutes?
no, I don't know how we're gonna present it, but when I read this thing, I know the 3 that I'm interested in. I haven't read them all. Maybe there's more than that the change of the format has had an impact on what the intention was.
We hope that the public hearings will bring that out.
Okay, and you have enough time to do that?
If we don't have enough time, we're going to have to pull in our horns and go for the spring,
Because that's what I think
meeting.
we really need to do, because I think to try to do it quickly is a mistake.
That's not quick.
Jim, I know I'm on board with your sentiments. I believe Bob is, I think John is too.
I mean, we can do it. I'm just questioning it. I'm not saying,
Hold out hope.
Yes.
I'll hold out hope. That's a good way of putting it.
And if we can't,
Then we don't.
right.
I'm okay.
We're gonna try, though.
With your permission, would you like us to present the findings from the consultants at your next meeting? And go through all of the revisions that have been made and sort of summarize the final document that you might approve that evening to then open hearings on September 13th? Would you
Would
like
that be
us to?
structured as a public hearing or just a presentation to the board?
Would just be a presentation to the board.
Sounds like a good idea.
I think would be helpful.
That would be essentially your, well, not last opportunity, but to allow for 4 planning board meetings, so you could continue the hearing 3 times, basically, before you get to town meeting.
Great.
So it would be, I think, ample opportunity for people to come in, listen, provide testimony, et cetera, and you could hear concerns.
I think once the board sees the things that have been, are being held back for Phase 2, the entire non-conforming section, for example. That's a big one. Take it out of Phase 1 and move to Phase 2.
Takes away half of the objections right there, okay?
Yes, it does, it does. So wait and see in this presentation, what's been moved to Phase 2 might really calm it down.
Okay.
My concern is we're pushing this, and we may not have enough time to have that public hearing and notify the public before town meeting.
Well, it's like we said,
I'm concerned that the time frame is just not gonna allow it.
It might not.
So, I mean, the plan is to get as much in as we can, and if it doesn't work, then we push it off, so.
We're that much farther ahead.
Right, yeah, so,
But if we don't, if we say, oh, we're gonna wait till spring,
yeah,
then we don't have the impetus to
Right.
push.
right,
Right.
yeah.
And we could use it, because the Phase 2, is when we can actually make changes that people have been wanting. So that this is a barrier to getting to that stage that many of us think is a more productive stage. So we're gonna try, we'll see how it goes. Okay, are there, any announcements?
I have none. Unless I'm forgetting something. You're looking at me like I am.
Well, I would like to, it could be that all the other members of the board already know this, but you know that Kimco, owners of 9 point something or other acres on Davis Straits, are going before the select board for their flow neutral on August 22nd, so that people who are interested in that
Good
might
reminder.
want to either tune into that hearing and listen to it, or come.
So, as you know, the property owners at, I believe it's 12 Davis Straits, Kimco Properties, are seeking to be the second applicant under the mixed
Right.
residential and commercial overlay district, and are seeking a variance from the flow neutral bylaw from the select board, I believe on August 22nd is the date. They meet on Monday nights, so
Right.
they will be before the select board asking for said variance.
And what they are proposing is for 156 rental apartments, a quarter of which will be affordable. 156? So
But they'll all count.
they all count, because there'll be rentals.
Yes, they all count. That's what, it works.
What's at that location now?
Friendlies and
Staples.
Staples, basically Friendlies. I've actually seen the plan. They've showed it to me.
Really?
Yes.
What's it look like?
So that's at 12 Davis Straits?
Yes.
Just verifying the address.
It is a little, well, see, here's the problem. We didn't, form-based code has a lot of design components that we get to say. And the multi-family mixed use doesn't have that design review component, and the building looks a little bit more like what we just saw.
No, we have site plan review that
Site- and we-
includes design review.
Right.
And we have.
But it's not as strong as
the-
form-based code.
No, it is not.
That's my point.
No, it is not, but we can talk about it as if it were.
Well, the plan I saw, I said, this is great, the numbers all work, but I had this, almost the same
Oh.
reaction to one big, long, it's a mathematical building. It works.
Right.
The element of the quirkiness of design and Cape Cod and all of the other things, it's really hard to do when you got a giant building and you just
Well,
stamp
you
it
can
out.
see, the thing that we were looking at earlier, it's the economy model.
But they can,
But-
right, they can class it up, is that's what they need to do.
Well, this one looks
And
a
I-
little better than the economy model,
Right.
but it's right up against the houses.
Oh, you've seen it too?
Go into the planning office.
Did we get the Kimco plan?
Not
We
exactly.
do not have an official plan
Right.
from
The
the
drawing.
developers as of yet. We have an unofficial copy of what they were looking at doing, which, again, is proprietary, so we have to be mindful of that. But they will be before the select board on August 22nd.
And I've already given them the same comments that, I had a meeting with them and I told them what I thought. Said the numbers work in the building, but I really don't like the
The
looks
building
of
looks
it.
But that I would think that, I was planning to, when I heard that they were going to go before the select board, I was told that it was going to be last night, that it would be their meeting there. And I was planning to go and saying, I have no idea what the rest of the planning board thinks, but I think that we should approve this flow neutral thing, because we have really been looking forward to this kind of development on that site. And I wonder if we want to be able to say that as a board.
Well, doesn't the flow neutral bylaw actually have an exemption or an encouragement to do that for residential, for
I have no
affordable housing?
idea.
It does, because I've gotten 4 of the permits, and I know if you're doing an affordable housing project, that's one of the reasons they can give you a waiver. I know personally it has that in the bylaw.
Well, that's great, but don't you think the planning board ought to weigh in so that they do this?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, great, come to the meeting.